Okay.
Welcome, Movellans, Gantrians, and Time Lords, to the 112th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, featuring Destiny of the Daleks, written by Terry Nation, and streaming live on the 17th of June, 2015. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
I want a Pip-Boy.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
And Aaron Romeo Moonberg.
Meepeth.
And we did have another opening that we did not create that we had intended to make some use of today. We're not going to add the video onto our own channel, but if you're on a pausable medium, please feel free to turn to YouTube and look up Hitchhiker's Guide to the Daleks, because I'm sure we'll be referencing it, and it is very apt. So if you can go ahead and watch that.
Make sure you find the one that's labeled Peter Jonesy Edit.
Yeah. And also, if nothing else, we might actually include a clip or two of it at another point. Maybe. That being said,
we should once again say that Tim is unavailable tonight because he is doing theater stuff.
However, he did notify us that he might be coming tomorrow.
Or next week.
Or next week,
if we're podcasting again tomorrow, I'd like to know about this ahead of time.
Yeah. I agree. I would also like to know.
Wait, when is the time warp again?
Yeah. We are not going 5 nights a week. I don't think I could take it.
I don't think I could take it. I tried that for comic reviews.
If we get enough in our Patreon and we quit our day jobs, I would not be opposed to the idea.
And how much is in the Patreon now, Bill?
Bagel.
Bagel. We can afford bagels. Oh, wait.
Right. Okay. So, moving on, I guess, to the news. We're starting out with birthdays this week, and the first thing we'd like to announce is that Carol Ann Ford, Susan Foreman from 1963 to 65? Or was it 65? I think, very early 65.
You're not counting that. If you're not counting 1983 or Big Finish in the Run,
I'm not. I'm
talking about the original.
It probably would have been 65 because that was a 6-parter she left in, so it probably would have been a new year by then.
She turned 75 yesterday. Or she turned 75, I should say, which is 5 years away from a good run. She's still active, as we mentioned, in Big Finish and other personal projects. Happy birthday, Carol Ann.
Happy birthday.
She did appear in An Adventure in Space and Time, but I couldn't figure out which character was actually her because she was either wearing a wig or dyed her hair. So I did not end up cutting an image for that for fear of putting the wrong person on the happy birthday photo.
I think it was just one of the people that was like in one of the side cameos. Like
I think
the
so
party,
because
I
noticed
the party that Verity Lambert went to. I think that's where she was.
I know she was only credited as Joyce with no last name, so I would take it that would be an extra role, except they put it in there as an homage to her original role.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have another.
I'd have to look to see where she is. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Sorry, that was just a long pause. I figured you guys were done.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another birthday. Arthur Darvill, a.k.a. Rory Williams, and Doctor Who turns 33 on Wednesday. Today, actually.
Or Rory.
Well, Rory's busy at the moment filming for the new CW DC series.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's died enough. I wonder if he ever celebrates death days as well.
Well, this was my day of my first death.
Well, no, but he is allowed at the poker table with Kenny McCormick. Any other characters that died all the time?
Captain Jack.
Captain Jack's allowed at the poker table.
I'm thinking
And there's a special
Daffy.
spot there's a special spot at the table for Sean Bean.
I'm thinking Daffy had a few afterlife scenes, so I think he actually did die a few times.
I was gonna say
Technically.
Jean Grey.
Oh, Jean Grey, yeah, yup,
Jean
yup.
Grey.
Wolverine, while we're at it, yup. I remember seeing a comical bit where Wolverine was trying to sit there and try to figure out how many times he actually died. I died once in Japan. I died once in Hong Kong.
Deadpool.
Oh, Deadpool.
Magneto,
Deadpool's
if
got
we're
a special
talking about
spot there.
Wolverine.
His girlfriend is deaf, so
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I hate to use this as a segue, but I guess
Oh,
I should move on.
speaking
Speaking
of
of
that,
you have-
days,
Yes. Oh God, we're going to hell.
We are.
But we do have a lost story to talk about this week. Not long ago, we mentioned that Christopher Lee, known as Saruman, Count Dooku, and many other roles, celebrated his 93rd birthday. Well, apparently, 11 days later, he passed due to heart failure. So, rest in peace, Sir Christopher Lee.
Mhm.
We will definitely know your passing.
we're
This is
missing you already.
particularly sad to me. I cried quite a bit because he never got a role on Doctor Who.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Although,
I mean,
I
you
don't
know
think
it
I
had to be
included
on his mind
any
when
of the
Ian
entries.
McKellen did the voice of the Great Intelligence. He's
I
like,
did find.
oh crap.
I keep forgetting to save this, but I did find it was a fan poster. It was I think it was they had named it Doctor Who and the Master, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. That would have been amazing.
Oh.
Yes, it would have been. I actually was thinking today as I'm sitting there going, Christopher Lee would have made one hell of an awesome master.
Mhm.
Now
Yes.
that said, considering we all were sworn that Christopher Lee was immortal, one has to ask: does Sean Connery have his head somewhere?
Could be.
There can be only one. The quickening.
Actually, that is fitting because Connery was Bond, and I recently found out that Christopher Lee, I think, did play a Bond villain. Or at
Yes,
least
he was the
in a
man with the
Bond
golden gun.
movie.
Mhm.
He is what the golden gun was named after. He's responsible for the creation of that character and why the gun is so awesome. So thank you, Christopher Lee. We will be missing you.
Yes, indeed.
Who's gonna fill his shoes as Dracula? No one can do that.
I don't know. Gary Oldman did a pretty damn good job.
Oh,
I
true.
have to say that Peter Jackson is probably saying like, "Thank God I finished filming Lord of the Rings movies."
No shit.
He had 2 listings in his filmography after Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, wow, that was cutting it
Oh.
close.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I hope they got done filming.
that is our only death we have to report, but we have a couple of close calls. The first one is Star Trek's own Nichelle Nichols, known as the original Uhura, had a mild stroke on June 4th. She is still undergoing tests to determine the extent of it. But they say that there is some loss of mobility on the right side of her face. Nothing that looks like permanent paralyzation at this point, but that could mean that at this point she's not going to be acting anymore,
Or at least a little while.
at least for a
There
little
is
while.
as of yet, no word if Zoe Saldana will be doing the same.
Right?
Yeah, I couldn't catch that.
I said there is no word if Zoe Saldana, who plays her in the remake, is doing the same. It was
Not
a
yet.
very terrible.
It was very terrible and not worth repeating, Bill. You should have just pled the fifth on that.
You should purge that one
Well,
bill.
Other than Uhura, she's also known for her work in the series Heroes, NBC 2006. She guest starred in Futurama whenever they did a Star Trek thing.
Mhm.
and she was very big on the Star Trek con circuit. Again, this has been a very bad year for Star Trek convention goers because it looks like
Mm-hmm.
Nichelle Nichols is probably going to be off the circuit, probably for the remainder of the year at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have already had
Hey,
Leonard
we
Nimoy
had to do
die.
Star Wars Celebration without
And
Harrison Ford, and now it looks like Star Trek fans are going without Uhura for this season.
yeah, but I mean, it's been a bad year because we've lost Nimoy, we lost Grace Lee Whitney,
Mm-hmm.
and now we've got Nichelle Nichols. Hopefully, this is the bad thing comes in threes and it stops here.
For now.
Although I would like to point out that I did predict that Nichelle Nichols was next. When we lost Nimoy, I said Nichelle Nichols was next.
Mm.
Grace Lee Whitney doesn't count because she was a supporting cast member, not one of the main group.
Yeah.
I was
But I
trying to
said
remember who she
Shatner
was.
seems. What's that?
I was
She
trying
played
to remember
Janice.
who she. Yeah.
She played Janice Rand for the first part of the first season of Star Trek before
Mm-hmm.
she was fired. So she was so she might have been a main cast, except she was replaced.
Excuse me.
And that kind of put her in supporting. And I don't even consider Chapel to be one of the main cast, although she had the repetitive role too. But she was just a strong support. Because really, when you think of Star Trek's original series main cast, you think Kirk, Spock, Scotty, McCoy, Sulu, Chekhov, Uhura.
I don't even really think Chekhov, except for the movies. Like, if I can't remember him having much of a role when watching the original series. I mean,
Well, that's because he
that's
didn't show up until
me not
season
having
2.
watched the animated, by the way. Right.
He didn't show up
By the
until
way,
season
that's
2.
me not having watched seasons 4 and 5, the animated series. So
The animated series hit or miss. There are some kind of bad episodes in there, and there are some very, very well written episodes in there. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But Chekhov wasn't always there because Eric's was his semi replacement.
Mm.
Anyway, let's move on from Star Trek.
Yep.
Aaron?
So yeah, I know. I've been waiting while you've been going on about Star Trek because this is one of my favorite actors has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and that's Sir John Hurt. Yeah, he's been in The Elephant Man. He was in the Harry Potter films as Mr. Flitwick, I believe, or no, not Mr. Flitwick, the guy who sells the
Ollivander.
wands. Ollivander, yeah.
I
I've
didn't
also
realize
known.
that was John Hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I also recognize him. He's the War Doctor from Doctor Who. But I do have one of his filmed appearances in Crime and Punishment. So yeah, he's one of my favorite actors. He says he's going to keep working despite the diagnosis. So he's undergoing treatment right now, and he's pretty optimistic. But yeah.
Hard to tell.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah. Apparently.
I knew he was an alien. I remember the scene in Alien
Oh yeah.
with him in it.
Mhm.
I
and
knew
of
he
course
was in Doctor
Spaceballs,
Who.
same scene.
Yeah,
Oh
and the
yeah.
Spaceball scene where he redid it again.
Only he actually says in that one, "Oh no, not again."
Yeah.
Oh my baby, come
But I
on.
actually did not recognize him as Ollivander.
Mhm.
I think it was not too
Probably,
long ago I saw some jokes about the War Doctor leading Harry Potter into the Wizarding World on
I think it
Facebook.
might have been.
They were probably
Didn't he
Tumblr
have some
jokes.
pretty big contacts in that?
Mhm.
Yeah, that might be why, because I couldn't recognize his face because of the contacts.
I believe John Hurt shares the honor of starring as Joseph Merrick in The Elephant Man. He shares that honor with Mark Hamill. I believe Mark Hamill has also appeared as Joseph Merrick. But he did his stint on stage in I think they're talking about the filmed Elephant Man, the actual the movie.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, mhm,
And he was only knighted earlier this year.
mhm.
Wow. Get knighted, wind up with cancer.
God.
Somebody check the Queen's Sword for carcinogens.
Now that said, I mean, this is me knowing absolutely nothing about medicine and health. But if people can have their pancreas removed, if you have pancreatic cancer, is it possible to remove all trace of it if it hasn't spread very far?
It depends on if it's metastasized or not.
Mhm.
If
Yeah, it
it's
depends on the state
metastasized,
of it.
if it's metastasized, you're screwed. Because
Right.
Yeah.
nothing they're going to do is going to get rid of all of it.
And by that
But
point, that
there,
means that all of your internal organs are affected
Hmm.
because it's right in the middle of that.
So it's just a matter of
mhm.
time, and we have to sit here and wait to find out just what state he's in and how quickly they caught it,
Whether the
and if they can
cancer
get rid of
will,
it.
can be removed or can be moved into remission or what.
So we
One of
just
these
have to wait
days,
and see.
medical science is going to find a way to biologically do what's the equivalent of a reformat on biological cells
Mhm.
and cure cancer. But
Till that time.
that's a long
Well,
way getting
not
from there to
not
here.
that long ago, I was watching a Next Generation episode where they put people in cryostasis until they could be found by the Next Generation crew and have all of their cancer and such removed.
Hmm.
Could do that, maybe.
That was the finale for season 1,
Probably can't do that.
the neutral zone. I remember the episode.
Uh, well, I think I was watching season 2, but
Eh,
either way, somewhere in there.
Hmm.
Maybe either I might have been one actually. I'm not 100% certain. To
Anywho.
move on to our Doctor Who news, we have seen the announcement that BBC Worldwide has announced that Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman will be visiting a German fan event on Berlin on the 17th of July. The event will offer German fans the opportunity to see the actors for the first time in Germany. Last year's world tour did not include any European cities outside of the UK.
was that the same
Peter,
German event that we read the news about earlier, or is this a different one?
I'm honestly not sure because they don't name the event, at least not that I'm seeing in the
Okay.
article, which is kind of weird. I thought they would name it, but I'm not seeing any name of the event. So
Yeah,
I know
because
we did mention German convention, and it's probably the same one, but I'd have to compare dates.
okay. I was just curious because I remember a news article on that. That's all.
Right.
But it's nice if this is the same event, because wasn't that like essentially Kickstartered? It's nice to see.
Something like that.
It's nice to see the fact that the BBC is going through and actually getting the high stars to go to it, legitimizing it in a way.
Hmm.
Right.
You got anything else to say on that article?
That's really about it. There is
All
a
right.
quote from Peter Capaldi. He mentions that so many German fans have already reached out to him about the show, and he's delighted to be traveling to their country to find out firsthand why they love Doctor Who.
And the intro for Capaldi will probably be sung by David Hasselhoff or
It'll
Heino.
be fantastic.
All right.
Either way, it'll be
So,
fantastic.
yeah. All right. So we're moving on to Big Finish news, I take it. Where we're looking at the announcement of the release of Bernice Summerfield's greatest adventure, The God of Death, featuring Sutek, a villain that the Fourth Doctor fought. The listed print press forward is as follows. Deep below the sand of Mars, an ancient horror stirs. Sutek, last of the Osirians, have been reborn, and all humanity trembles at his feet. The Doctor is powerless, the Time Lords are helpless, and the only hope for the universe is Bernice Summerfield, archaeological extraordinaire, and it will take everything she has to face the Egyptian god of death. Robot mummies, insane cultists, lost treasures, and a chase across time and space await the adventures in Doctor Who, The New Adventures of Bernice Summerfield, Volume 2, The Triumph of Sutek. It is, looks like a 4-part adventure.
Hmm.
The Pyramid of Sutekh by Guy Adams, The Vaults of Osiris by Justin Richards, The Eye of Horus by James Goss, and The Tears of Isis by Una McCormack. And it also has Lisa Bowerman, Sylvester McCoy, Sophie Adred, and Gabriel Wolfe. It is available to buy and download today from BigFinish.com.
Sutekh.
Last of the Sirens.
Although I do have to call
You
bullshit
before the might of Sutekh.
because, the Fourth Doctor faced Sutekh and won. And wasn't really overly impressed, if I recall.
Mm-hmm.
So now he shows up 3 regenerations later, and the Doctor's like, "Ooh, I can't do anything. I'm powerless." And the Time Lords are like, "Fuck, he's more powerful than us." And then we
That's
get
what you get for pissing off a god.
Bernice Summerfield.
I do remember there being a scene in Pyramids of Mars where they were afraid that Sutekh was going to destroy or take over the world or something, but I don't remember what the catalyst for that was supposed to be.
He forced the Doctor to kneel, and he removed the Doctor's key to the TARDIS telepathically, and then was able to stand from his throne once and enter his pyramid on Mars at one point, I believe.
He got very close to freeing himself, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this sounds like he's actually free and they still need to stop him.
Well, and, it does kind of feel like Bernice Summerfield. I think maybe Rand was hinting that Bernice Summerfield might be a Mary Sue, and amongst all of this, it kind of looks that way. But if it's Big Finish, let them have their cookie, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, it's her story, not the Doctor's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But at the same time, having the Doctor, the character that, pretty much set this, go there and basically be absolutely powerless on it is kind of, playing, you're really playing your own horn at this point.
Well, we have to see how they do it, so.
It's of note that the trailer for this is actually Bernice Summerfield's first live-action appearance. There have been photographs of the actress who plays Bernice being, in the role, but this is the first time that she's actually in motion video played the role.
Interesting. I never realized they did live-action trailers for their stuff.
This is kind of a first.
Very rarely. Extremely rarely, actually.
Yeah, usually at best, Big Finish will take an adventure and animate it, but not the greatest animation, and I can only remember that happening a couple of times.
This isn't the greatest green screen
I think
either,
that's something they've been working at doing more, because I think I remember them doing it at one point within the past year, but I might be mistaken. But I would not be surprised if that's the direction they're moving toward, where big events have a live-action trailer. I mean, obviously they can't really do that with the Doctors, but with someone like Bernice, where it's their own actor and they're, in the age they're supposed to be, they can do it. So, Doctor, why are you so much older than you're supposed to be? It's Sutekh.
The time differential. Curses.
Okay. So are you ready to move on here?
Yep.
Let me see here. All right. So we have, in the Queen's birthday honors, several Doctor Who faces were awarded the Order of the British Empire for service to drama, including showrunner Stephen Moffat, and Adventure in Space and Time's Leslie Manville, and Snake Dance's Martin Clunes. So that's pretty cool. Let me see here.
Hacks. I call hacks.
Oh.
Moffat has done more in the last 5 years to ruin Doctor Who.
Yeah,
I mean, well,
I have to agree that I will prefer certain
from a
other
production standpoint, if you look at him as a producer, he's done good things. It's as a story editor, really, that most of his flaws have
And a
come into
writer.
effect.
Story editor and writer, yeah.
Writer, he's done a mixture of great things and terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Not sure what you
But
call it.
as an editor, he's a complete failure. I mean, anybody that would have let Journey to the Center of the TARDIS slide past his radar has failed.
So, Rodri
I mean-
Talfan Davies, director of BBC Cymru Wales, commented on Moffat's honor. We're thrilled to see Stephen's creative brilliance being recognized today. Not only has he enthralled countless millions of viewers across the world, he has helped rocket boost the Welsh creative sector, inspiring a new generation of talent here in Wales to make their mark on the global stage. I'm so delighted to see his remarkable achievements being honored.
Okay. So, by the way, I have the official way that is pronounced. It's Kemmery.
Kemmery. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm terrible at
Because-
Welsh names.
That's
And
Yeah,
I read the Mabinogia.
I had to listen to a
There-
phonetic pronunciation of it.
Yeah, looking at that spelling and that pronunciation, all I can say is Welsh.
Yeah,
Yes.
Freaking Welsh.
this one's
Welsh.
even a little more understandable than most Welsh because it has vowels.
Yes, but they don't line up the way that vowels should. At least Cardiff is pronounced the way it's spelled. Although I imagine the Welsh call Cardiff something different.
Probably. And by the way, Kemmery just basically means Wales.
Wales,
Good
huh?
to know.
Wales. Wonderful.
It's basically they're basically saying Wales in Welsh and then Wales in English.
Correct.
Aye.
If you're in England, you call it Wales. If you're in Wales, you call it Kemmery, or they look at you funny.
Just in case you're wondering where you're at.
And now that I have alienated all of
everything
Wales,
we've learned from Torchwood about the Welsh is a lie.
On
now
that
that I've
note,
completely alienated everybody in Wales, so we can move on. Or
Big Finish! Yay!
So for some more Big Finish, the latest release is Doctor Who: The Secret History. This is the 200th main range release. The blurb is as follows. The TARDIS brings the Doctor, Stephen, and Vicky to the Italian city of Ravenna in the year 540, besieged by the army of the celebrated Byzantine general Belisarius. No word whether or not Rory is there. Caught up in the fighting, Stephen ends up on a boat bound for Constantinople, the heart of the Roman Empire. Rescuing Stephen, however, is the least of the Doctor's problems, because he shouldn't be mixed up in this particular adventure at all. Someone has sabotaged his own personal timeline, putting him in the place of his first incarnation. But who and why? The truth is about to be revealed, but at what cost to all of the Doctors and to the whole future history of the planet Earth? This is, I believe, the last of this trilogy because this is the main event they were counting down for. And I imagine that if it was the Ronnie, they would have announced that fact. So I don't think that this is an actual long story version of That Which We Do Not Name.
so is it bad that I can remember the 100th entry? And
You
it
mean when
doesn't
it was
seem like that
released?
long ago? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, actually, I can't remember if it was before New Who or not, but it didn't seem that long ago to me.
Now that you say that, I have to. That was Zagreus, wasn't it?
No, Zagreus was 50.
Zagreus was 50. Do you remember the name of the 100?
No, I don't.
Well, I don't want to stall us out while I look for it, so I will just go ahead and mention. To celebrate this release, throughout the month of June, Big Finish fans can subscribe to the Doctor Who Super Subscription. This is 42 titles, starting anywhere between $216 and $221, for either $350, they say pounds, but it is dollars, I did check, on CD, or $325 for download. They mentioned that you save over $200, and this does mean you're paying about $9 per release in either event. The offer
it's actually
ends on
rather
July
obvious.
1st. What's that?
The 100th release was called 100.
Ah,
And it was released in September of 2007. So right in the craze of New Who, and that was 8 years
that would
ago.
have been between Series 3 and the Christmas special.
Yep. Whereas The Sirens of Time, considered episode 1 of the monthly, though it wasn't actually considered that at the time, was released in July 99.
And I
So,
think there was a bit of a gap before the actual monthly releases started.
July, September, just a month.
Oh, okay.
Or July, August, September. So there was 2 months that they didn't do anything, and then immediately there was they started coming out on a semi-monthly basis.
If I recall, the
October,
monthly range
November.
started being commissioned due to the success of Sirens in Time, so that makes sense.
Yep, but it wasn't quite monthly. Like I said, it was October, November, and then you had January, February, March, April. And actually, then it starts going monthly with the occasional twice a month.
Okay.
So, yeah, it actually looks like it took off pretty good. It just took them a bit to gear up for it.
Yeah. It happens.
Although I don't think they had all 3 Doctors in the beginning, other than Sirens.
No, they didn't.
No, they had 5th, 6th. No, they had all 3 of them going.
Oh, okay.
Within the first 5 releases. It was like you had 5th, 6th, and 7th in one, and then it was 5th, 6th, 5th again to 7th, 6th, 7th, 5th. So they were doing a pretty good smattering. And then the 8th joined in, starting with the 16th monthly release. So then you had 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And they cruised along that way for quite a while. Like until, actually, they're still doing 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th only in the monthlies. The 4th Doctor has not actually done monthly releases. Probably never will.
Wait, you said which
hard.
one?
The 4th Doctor has never done monthly releases.
He's never done main range releases, but he does do monthly releases on the 4th Doctor range.
Yeah, but I mean, he's basically doing his own thing. He's not part of the main range.
They basically don't want to dilute the Tom Baker experience by mixing him with less popular Doctors.
I'm okay with that.
That should have, if he'd ever done a one-man show, that should have been what it was called, the Tom Baker experience.
Moving on. That's the Captain America experience.
I'm sorry, my brain just shut down for a moment. Because my brain started to think of the Ace Rimmer experience and went, no!
Ooh.
Okay, so, there was a little bit of a hullabaloo that went on at on YouTube or on Twitter today and on Facebook, as Top Gear, the BBC's other top show that lost its 3 hosts earlier this year, announced that one of the new hosts was going to be Chris Evans, which half the Facebook and Twitter community confused with Captain America from the MCU. Hilarity ensued with various WTF-style posts and a few interesting pictures. Until finally somebody cleared the air by basically announcing that it was not that Chris Evans, but the UK's Chris Evans, who is a Radio 2 breakfast show announcer and has a weekly one show. He is also apparently friends with Jeremy Clarkson. If you have that article up, you can just go to the bottom of it, Matt, and it'll show you not that Chris Evans, but that Chris Evans.
Yep. Not this one. This one.
And that's really it. Other than that, you know, the concept of Chris Evans doing Top Gear would be great, but his other hosts would have to be like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. and who is it that plays Thor?
Chris Hemsworth.
Hemsworth? Yeah, Hemsworth.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you'd have to get the 3 of them doing a show.
And just every once in a while, a guest CG appearance of the Hulk as he smashes someone's car.
Robert Downey
I was
Jr.
going to
would
say
actually
something
have
about
to
a
be Clarkson.
testosterone overdose, but I imagine the original Top Gear was probably much in the same vein.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tony Stark as the Leadfoot. More power!
Yeah,
When
you
we were
had...
talking about this earlier, I also recommended we have Black Widow's motorcycle segment.
Yeah, just to let you know, Bill, the Top Gear thing is you had Jeremy Clarkson, who was basically a step up more evolved from Neanderthal, being the old guy interested in nothing but power and speed. You had James May, who was the more refined, relaxed sort, who liked more luxury style cars and got the moniker Captain Slow, and possibly could compete with Ryoga Hibiki for world's most lost person. And then you have Richard Hammond. He's more of a rural sort and has been accused by the others of being a closet American.
To a degree, I could see that.
They've also used several other terms to use that would probably get us banned from YouTube, but so I will not repeat those.
Yeah, we can swear up and down nowadays. They don't control language anymore.
He was referred to by the others frequently, and he got in trouble for this once as being a pikey.
A pikey.
Yes.
Well, at least it's not the cheeky Nando's.
Anyway, so you've got those three interacting with each other, each with their unique viewpoints, but for some reason, it meshed exceedingly well. And that was why Top Gear worked.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to find that kind of connection.
It's gonna be a tough uphill climb.
I'm not even sure whose shoes Chris Evans would fill properly, if anybody's at all.
He might be Captain Slow by the look of him, but I can't say for sure offhand either. We'd have to actually experience him.
All right.
Moving
So
on.
let's move on from this.
Okay. Well, actor Benedict Cumberbatch and his wife Sophie Hunter have become parents of a baby boy. I guess that means I'm not interested in him anymore.
He was a perfect brother.
Interestingly, I don't think any of the articles mention the boy's name.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
All I have to ask is, was he perfect in every way?
He was honored by Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh my.
But not for having a baby, I don't think. I think, wasn't that for a different...
I don't know.
It was,
all I know is that he's got children now, and I'm not interested in him. Back to humping my cartoon porn.
For his services to the performing arts and charity, but that was the day before the baby was born.
I feel sorry.
Okay.
I feel sorry for the baby on a personal note. It sucks to be born on the 13th.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's see. He was born Saturday.
Wait till it hits a Friday.
So his first birthday will be on a Monday. His second birthday will be on a Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It'll be his fifth birthday that his first Friday the 13th comes up. And with everything skipped, hopefully he will not have my problem. My 13th birthday, my golden birthday, was on Friday the 13th.
Ooh.
Wait, did it turn out terrible?
As a Jason fan, I would have loved that.
Actually, all I could remember from my first 13th birthday was sitting in my second room, which was my little entertainment mini office location, listening to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and playing Dig Dug.
Not bad afternoon.
This also might show how remarkably old I am, but I digress.
Hey, Dig Dug's still fun. That's meg anyone who says otherwise. Anywho, So the last bit for tonight.
Yep. Go for it,
Alrighty,
Matt.
so I have given you all links in the Skype, so do try to follow along if you want to. We are going to start off with the fact that this what I'm about to cover is going to be all of the E3 big news. Starting off as the Sony announcements. We have Shenmue 3, which by the way looks fantastic. Can't wait. It's already been funded because they actually started a Kickstarter that night after it was announced at E3.
I didn't know
Um,
there was a Shenmue 2.
Shenmue 2, I was kind of surprised by that too, but I'm not totally thrown out by that. I think I might have heard of it before.
Because wasn't the first game like a Dreamcast game where you
Yeah.
could like spend hours fiddling around with all the little stuff that was in the room?
Yes, it was an open game world, and you could just sit there for hours just doing little side things if you want to. Essentially, the Shenmue games have always been really big and really good, so hopefully number 3 will be no different. Um, we also got an announcement that for sure the Last Guardian is not dead. This is the third game in the series of Ico slash Colossus games. The new creature, which we assume is the Guardian, is adorable as all get out. We got to see some actual in-game footage of the child main character helping solve a puzzle, and the two of them trying to escape a long jump and getting onto a platform. So, looks awesome. Can't wait. We also had a few new ones, including Horizon Zero Dawn, which came out interestingly. It seems to be a post-apocalypse where everything has been overgrown by nature again, but dinosaur-like giant robots still roam the world, and humans, more or less in the form of cavemen, actually still hunt down the giant dinosaur robots. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. And there's been a couple of other interesting announcements, not the least of which, next link, Final Fantasy VII Remake. It is coming first to the PlayStation 4.
Sweet.
They have announced that it is officially a remake. They are officially doing it. They have shown enough footage that we can tell that we saw a little bit of the opening sequence of the original game again, in much higher and closer up detail. And we've also seen the back of Cloud and a couple other characters from behind. So
May I say something here?
yes,
Finally!
finally,
We have been asking for this for like 2 consoles now.
yes.
Yes. I mentioned to Matt that I've been trying to find an official announcement of this for clarification, because sometimes they say remake and they just mean redoing the graphics, or sometimes
Actually, this article they mentioned the actually no, I don't think it was this article. I saw another article where they mentioned the fact that it's not just graphical updates. They are going to be retweaking the fighting system a little bit to make it catch up, and they are apparently going to be trying to fix some of the plot holes from the original game.
Nice.
So we might be fixing some of the things like why can't Earth be
This might convince
rezzed?
me to buy a PS4, because I've been going back and forth between either buying a PS3 or a PS4, and the poor backwards compatibility compared to the 1 to 2 has been part of the reason I haven't just made the leap.
Mm-hmm.
But when this comes out, I will need to play it right away.
I will also say this. I'm part of a group that has been that I've been doing like Minecraft stuff and other things. We've been getting quiet points and find out that someone's watching something from E3, and we'll get to know what they're watching. And I believe there were several people in that group that were thinking they were going to get an Xbox One, saw the PlayStation show, and just went, "Fuck it, getting a PlayStation instead." Nope, switching. I'm switching the boats. I can't the Xbox, PlayStation now.
I'm sorry, I'm watching the trailer right now.
Yeah, I've held off on watching the trailer because that actually doesn't say anything about what the gameplay itself will look like. But I'm watching it now
but it's still pretty. It's Enix. It's always going to be pretty.
At the very least, it says the FMVs are going to look nice.
Yes, and that's almost a given, but it's even prettier now than it was before. So going to the next link. Some news from Nintendo. Nintendo has been still kind of lackluster because, as anyone can tell you, the Amiibo thing has been catastrophe this year.
Yep.
Well,
So
they've
not
been
much
selling
news
very
on that
well.
other than the fact that they're going to make more and more Amiibos. But however, they're coming out with a new Zelda game, which I believe is going to be for 3DS, which sounds to be interesting. They are making a new Mario and Luigi game, which also combines Paper Mario elements, and a lot of people have been saying, oh yeah," and they really want it. They also have a Super Mario level editor, which essentially you can make your own Super Mario Brothers levels out of any of the previous games, any of them, as far back as the original. You can make a Super Mario Brothers game level, and they have got some crazy stuff going on in there. Um, they are making a new Star Fox where you get to use the new view screen as the control for your actual ship. So it's going to be motion controlled with your main screen, but you can still use the TV screen to see what you're doing.
Too bad they're already coming out with a new console to replace the Wii U.
Well, they're working on it. There's no idea when it's going to be released. So, um, also they are going to be making Hyrule Warriors for the 3DS. I'm officially a happy 3DS owner. I want the new upgrade so I can use my amiibos, the few that I have, because shiny, shiny, shiny. Um, but that's pretty much it from Nintendo this week. Also, the other thing that kind of irks me is that they didn't actually have a live show. They essentially had what looked to be more or less one of their usual pre-recorded shows where they start to spread news like every couple months or so. I forget what they called them.
No,
So
the article
I'm
that you linked us to did mention that that's what they've been doing for the past few E3s, or the pre-taped digital event.
Yeah, but this one
yeah.
was really kind of
Well,
apparently
that's I think that's because Nintendo knows they're in trouble.
a bit.
The Wii U has been tanking. That's we've heard rumors of a new console. Um, the problem is I think the Wii U is just a slightly retooled Wii, which in itself was a retooled GameCube. So it's that particular chipset technology is really showing its age.
Yeah, it is getting a little threadbare places.
No Pokemon Z release. I mean,
No,
announcement.
nope, not that I'm aware of. So moving,
They did announce a new Metroid Prime game, which is ass.
Mhm.
which is
As if
asked
they
because it's
hadn't
not actually
defiled
Metroid
Metroid
Prime.
enough.
Now
Yeah, there's no
that's an
Samus Aran in it.
I think the main reason Nintendo still continues on is because they hooked so many of us in the 80s and 90s and just keep putting out the same things for the existing addicts.
No, well, that's part of it. Their console, I mean, their handheld. Nintendo still dominates handheld.
Oh, by a mile long
They they
stretch.
they have since
Yeah,
Game Boy, since they
yeah,
started
but
handhelds.
from
The
what I hear,
problem is,
mobile phone games are starting to challenge that.
Meh,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
freemium
barely.
mostly.
They're mostly freemium shit. They're not
yeah,
as advanced as any of the 3DS or Game Boy stuff has ever been.
yeah.
Not,
The thing is,
it's not close enough.
the thing is that has been Nintendo's bread and butter for like 10 years because since the Super Nintendo, um, Nintendo consoles have been real hit or miss. The
Mm-hmm.
N64 was innovative but very hard to program for and was ultimately a failure. Um, the
GameCube was a
GameCube,
huge hit
the GameCube was largely successful. The Wii was fairly successful,
until its later run.
but the Wii U has been tanking.
The Wii U has
Right.
been really hard to get going. Yeah.
Although apparently
Yeah,
Amiibos have been selling really well. Apparently,
Yes,
all the
from
news I've been hearing
scalpers.
from Nintendo is, we're sorry our Amiibos sell so well. We'll make more."
Well, they can make more now. They don't need to be
yeah,
making such small quantities of everything. The
Yeah,
yeah.
people who are really
they're
Yeah,
making
but
money are
if you're
scalpers.
already struggling due to other things, you're going to only make what you expect to sell. You're not going
And
to
that's
make
why
10
they're
times what you
taking,
expect to
because they're
sell.
not putting out enough. If they would have actually put out more of these figures like they should be doing, then they probably would be selling more units of Wii U right now.
It is something that the video game market has done in the past. Sony has done the same thing on release of consoles, deliberately keeping a low quantity to ramp up demand.
Mm,
It's a method. It's not the great thing in the universe, but it happens.
yeah. Well, anyway, to cap off all of this, I will start on the Bethesda stuff. The first thing I got a link for, Doom 4. So Doom 3 was this really dark, dank, nasty thing that was kind of slow and sluggish, but was graphically very impressive. But you needed to add mods just so you could actually see what the hell you were looking at. And it was by no means the fast, action-packed shooter that the original series had been. Doom 4 is taking all the visual appeal of Doom 3 with lights on and bringing back the action-packed shooter that we originally had, and making it even more brutal and even more awesome from the looks of it.
Yeah, Doom 3 was trying to do Doom the same way you would do a Resident Evil game.
Yes.
They were trying to do all the creep, all the scare, all the jump scare threats instead of what we all expected from Doom and Doom 2, which was to wade into a tide of demons and monsters with heavy weaponry.
Yes, and from what I saw of Doom 4, not only do we have all the classic monsters back, but they are fast, it's action packed. We are not being spooked by things, we are literally racing at them, ripping off their arms and beating their heads off with them. We are blowing
Do
things to Kingdom Come, we are even going straight to hell to shoot them up.
Please tell me that they brought back some more thumping music instead of the creepy music.
As far as,
Because half
as
of
far as
half
I
of the thing that
recall, it was pretty action packed music, so it sounded awesome to
because
me.
that was part of what made Doom was the frickin' score.
Well, I would also add that at the very beginning of their trailer, they actually show the Doom guy putting on his helmet.
Awesome.
So yeah, we got Doom guy helmet up close and personal. So Doom 4 looks awesome. Also, Doom 4 is coming with multiplayer versus where one side will be a bunch of Doom guys, the other side will be a bunch of demons. And you get demon power-ups and everything throughout the levels, just like you would get shotguns and other weapons for the Doom guys. So that looks cool. And we also are getting a level editor where you can actually make your own levels and actually pick what kind of type of game it's going to be playing as. Everything from death matches to wave fights. So that'll be interesting to see what people come up with on that. Moving on. Fallout 4. Oh my god. First, I saw the concept art that they've been working on, which looks fantastic. Second of all, I got to see their character creator, which you don't have to mess with sliding bars anymore. You literally click on your character's face and adjust as you want. And as they were clicking on the guy and adjusting his face, they suddenly clicked on his wife in the background. You can be the wife instead. You can be a female character now.
Awesome.
The basic plot, from what I understand, from what they revealed so far, is that you are either the husband or wife of a family. You are suddenly whisked away towards the vault as war erupts. You are then somehow frozen for 200 years, and then come to the surface again, find your home in tattered ruins, and everyone missing, and as you continue to wander around, you find and befriend a dog. And I've already been hearing news that, yes, in fact, the dog will not get killed. Because the instant you see the dog, and the instant you find out what the dog can do, because you can send him to fetch stuff for you, the instant they saw the dog up close, the entire audience just awed. He is a adorable German Shepherd by the look of him, and I can't wait because this not only looks slightly more impressive than the last couple of Fallouts, but it looks tightly done, and it also is allowing for better mechanics for weapon creation, armor creation, but also you get to make your own bases now.
Yeah, I'd heard about
Eh,
that.
I've never
All their
even
base are
finished
belong to
Fallout
you.
3.
And with
I
making your own bases, they are also making side missions, which are essentially like tower defenses.
Yeah, I wasn't that. I mean, the trailer for Fallout 4 looks okay, but I wasn't too impressed. It looked like pretty much we had everything we had been there and done that before.
Visually,
But
it looks a little bit better. It looks a little more stable, but
yeah,
to be
I mean
honest,
the flashbacks are kind of interesting.
I don't need overly flashy because also from what I've also been seeing is that the talking between characters is more intricate now. You know,
Hmm.
as a matter of fact, Aaron, you played Old Republic, the MMO, the
Yep.
Star Wars
Hmm.
MMO.
Yep.
Talking works like that now.
Sweet.
You actually get to see and hear your character's reactions.
My God, if only I had time to play these games.
So yeah, Fallout 4, as far as I'm concerned, looks great. Dishonored, we only got a little bit of a trailer, really quick, but it looks interesting, and they hinted at the fact that maybe the character from the original Dishonored will be coming back as well.
Hmm.
Sweet. I'd like to
Also,
see the
our new
original.
main character is a female assassin.
Sweet. I'd like to see the original Dishonored ported over to PlayStation 4.
I
I
don't
would like to
know.
see a lot of things ported over to PlayStation 4.
Do y'all? Yeah. But yeah, that's the quick down on the Dishonored, and Dishonored 1 was pretty good from what I hear, so I would assume
Hmm.
2 is going to be up there as well.
Yeah.
Also, now here's the thing I just found out before we started the stream. Platinum Games may be finally making the Transformers game we always wanted. They note the NES games because back in the day of Gen 1, obviously, there were some games out, but they were horrible flops, so bad that they never released outside of Japan officially. But apparently, this is being funded by NeoGaf, and it's being produced by PureBox. And if you look at the second link after the main one I showed you, you'll see that they actually have managed to get some artwork, including a cover and some very quick, very small pictures of the actual characters. And it's going to be cel shaded and very much in the style of the 80s cartoon. And it's from what I understand of the gameplay, it's going to be a brawler. Not just a fighter, a brawler.
Here's the question, though: can they get most of the original voice actors that are still alive?
They are promising that we are getting most of the voice actors that are still around, which means we'll go and get all the goodies back.
So they're
Hey,
talking about the
Frank.
'80s voice actors and not the Michael Bay ones.
Some
Well,
of them are the Michael Bay ones.
some of the Michael Bay ones were the original voice actors. Peter Cullen was Optimus Prime in both
Mm-hmm.
versions.
Yep.
Yep.
Frank Welker did voices in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Frank Welker does voices in everything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
If you
So,
look at a cartoon that has been made since 1980, Frank Welker has been in there at least at some point or another.
but
Yeah.
yes,
He
this looks really
in the
awesome. Can't
70s.
wait to see how this is going to turn out.
Hmm.
If it's even half as good as they're saying it's going to be, especially with the original voice acting cast back.
Well, the Transformers MMO is dead.
Uh, I didn't know they even came out anyway, so
Yeah, Transformers Universe, I believe.
yeah. Other quick announcements. Dark Souls 3 is coming out. They had a trailer. So, of course, that's going to happen. And the
Who's
final
working on it
major
though?
announcement, the only good thing I heard out of Xbox so far, is the Rare returns. They are bringing out Rare's old games, 30 of them, for $30. $1 each, and the list includes, but not limited to, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo Kazooie, Perfect Dark, and many, many more.
Meh.
Hmm. I'm wondering who's going to be working on Dark Souls 3. Is it going to be one of the original creators from who worked on Bloodborne? Because the team who worked on Dark Souls 2 is not the same team who worked on the original Dark Souls at all. So
Really ready to punish yourself again? You have mastered the horrors of Dark Souls and Bloodborne? You're in luck because Dark Souls 3 was just failed. Yada yada yada.
because they mentioned Dark Souls 2 in that, and they mentioned Bloodborne. So, but it wasn't the same team. And people who played Dark Souls 2 say that it wasn't as good as Dark Souls 1. So
Yeah, they're not really saying who's actually making this one, but they are mentioning Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne a lot, so I'm going to assume it's the same company the same group that made those two. And while
Actually, it
Dark
was
Souls
not the
2 may
same
have not
company.
been perfect, a lot of people really like Bloodborne,
No,
so
it was not the same company that did Dark Souls 2. It was not the same group.
yeah, like I
It was
said,
the
I
different. It
corrected
was a different
myself.
group that did Dark Souls 2, and one of the original people who did the original Dark Souls worked on Bloodborne.
Hmm. So we'll have to see. More likely it'll be fine. I still think they are rage machines, and that's why I tend to just stay away.
Mm. Oh, I thought you were going to try to do those.
I keep trying to do Demon's Souls, which is the prequel to all of them so far as I'm
Mm-hmm.
aware. But every time I get into it, it's just like, oh, now I have to sit here and grind for 10 hours. Not interested anymore.
Mm.
So, yeah, I keep trying it and it keeps flopping. So I'm kind of giving up on it. I'm not going to spend money if I can't even get through the first game. Anywho, so that's it for E3 so far.
Okay, good. We've overrun our news time by about 20 minutes.
It happens. At
We've
least we actually had
we've
news.
cut down our summary time, so I wasn't as concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
We no
Well,
longer spend 15 minutes on the summary.
I'm figuring I really have to cruise on it tonight.
Meh.
So, ready to go?
Shiny.
Get the stopwatch up. Let me take a drink before we start so that I have a fresh throat.
Stopwatch.
panic.
Nice stopwatch. Large stopwatch. It is ready.
All right.
There are lots of things
Tell
you
me
can
when
do
to
with
start.
stopwatch.
Okay, start in 3, 2, 1, go.
The episode starts with the Doctor and Romana landing on a planet which they have no idea what it is thanks to the randomizer, a device installed in the TARDIS previously. After a bit of distraction in which Romana regenerates and the Doctor attempts to fix K9, they head out into this planet based only on the knowledge that there's a lot of rocks and it's highly radioactive. The Doctor has given Romana pills for it and has taken some himself. Searching around, he notices that it's not just highly radioactive and full of rocks. The rocks themselves are concrete, meaning some sort of civilization, some sort of building had been here. The Doctor goes into one of these ruins and gets himself trapped. Romana can't lift the debris that's on the Doctor, so she goes off to the TARDIS to enlist K9's help while the Doctor reads Ulan Kalufid. Anyway, by the time Romana gets back, the Doctor is gone, having been rescued by these weird white-clad aliens called Movelians. Talking to them, he realizes that he's on the planet Skaro, and they're there as a task force looking up on the activities of the Daleks. Romana, in the meantime, has managed to get captured. She is part of a work party that's clearing rubble for their Dalek overlords. She manages to fake her own death and gets buried outside. The Doctor, meanwhile, has convinced the Movelians to go investigate what the Daleks are up to. They run into Romana along the way, digging herself out, and they go into the old Kaled city. The Doctor quickly realizes what the Daleks are up to, and works his way down to the fourth floor and up to the third, where he runs into Davros, coming out of hibernation after supposedly being dead in Genesis. The Doctor tries to take Davros and flee to the Movelian spaceship, but the Daleks unfortunately break through and manage to get him caught in a stalemate while Romana and the Movelians escape. Upon their return to the Movelian spaceship, they knock Romana out. The Doctor and Davros have a bit of witty repartee, followed by mutual death threats as the Doctor is holding explosives, claiming that he'll blow both him and Davros up if the Daleks don't do what they say. The Daleks first try to kill some of the workers to get the Doctor to cooperate, but after directly threatening Davros, he lets the Doctor get out. The Doctor, meanwhile, runs into Movelians and figures out that the Movelians themselves are robots. He disables one of them and finds Romana in a tube and tries to rescue her, but is captured by the Movelians. It turns out the Movelians and the Daleks are at war, locked in a stalemate for a long period of time because both of them are logical beings using battle computers. Davros intends to reprogram the Daleks to use a less logical approach, and the Movelians want the Doctor to do the same. However, the workers have managed to escape and, following some instructions that the Doctor or Romana has given them, are slowly reprogramming the Movelians to do their bidding. Meanwhile, Davros has sent the Daleks to blow up the Movelian ship. But the Movelians are all disabled. The Daleks go to detonate their bombs, but the Doctor managed to destroy the Dalek squad before they reach the ship. Davros is taken into custody, and the Doctor and Rana leave with the humans taking the Movelian ship back to put Davros in detention. End of story.
Pause. You did it in 0, 3. Took a few split seconds, so I'm going to say 3:35.
And if I hadn't made a couple of dramatic pauses, I could have done it in 3.5.
Possibly.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We are back on schedule.
Woo.
All right. So let's go on to what we liked and what we disliked. Pulling up my screen, I see once again Matt is in the lead.
I'm always first, it seems.
That's because you start the call.
Oh well. I'm the caller.
Are you going to go,
he
Matt,
who
or are you going to
calls.
have George Takei give his favorite overall thing?
Oh my. I love that scarf. What I liked overall. I have to say that I liked the overall reaction between the Doctor and Davros. Even though Davros was a little off to me, now I'll come back to that. The fact that they definitely recognized each other very quickly, despite the long period of time away from each other, and they just seemed to pick up almost instantly where they left off. More tricks and traps and trying to outthink one another. Bunch of witty scientists, crazy in their own different, unique ways. It just felt the dialogue itself felt really good between them, and that's why so many people really like the Tom Baker era, especially when it comes to Daleks. I think.
All right. Bill?
I'm going to say, well, I'm going to first mine, then Tim's. I'm going to say my favorite thing is the contributions by Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams and Tom Baker are just an absolute perfect match, and the combination of the dialogue he wrote, which he allegedly wrote 98% of what made it to screen. I don't know if how true that is. Obviously, he wrote the first few minutes and added things to the rest, but it's hard to tell what was Terra Nation's and what was his. But there was definitely, quite a bit of amusing additions by Douglas Adams in here, not to mention references to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which again is a perfect fit with the Fourth Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think
thing?
this was doing stuff from Hitchhikers around or shortly before Hitchhikers first appeared on radio.
Yeah, I think he might have been writing it for radio around this time. Or I think he was writing the radio and writing the book around the same time, so he might have been writing the book, but yeah, I'm not sure if any of it was out yet.
I'm double checking.
Okay, well, he's checking that. Tim's favorite thing, he says, was the character design. The prisoner costumes were very amusing, and he says the Movellans' look made perfect sense to him. I respectfully disagree.
I respectfully disagree as well. At least for the Movellians. The slave outfits at least look interesting. You can tell the different people apart very easily. Mm-hmm. It's also nice that they had a few aliens, even though it was kind of quick and fast go makeup.
I'm sorry. Okay, I must respectfully agree with Tim and say that I actually really like the Movellans.
This was about, by the way, a year and a half after Hitchhiker's Radio first aired.
Okay.
Which was the first incarnation of Hitchhikers.
But, by the way, does the radio version pronounce it as Betelgeuse or Beetlejuice?
I believe Beetlejuice. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe it was Beetlejuice. I've heard it before, the radio drama.
Yeah, it's been
I
a
know
while
I've
since
heard
I've...
it both
Beetlejuice as
ways,
well.
but I never listened to the radio.
I think it's a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds right to me.
Yep.
Because it was both Peter Jones that did the voice of the book and narrating in both the TV and the radio versions. The
One
late, great
imagines
Peter
Tom
Jones.
Baker probably listened to the radio play.
Well, it's obviously that Adams just needed stuff like the book that probably Terry Nation wrote. The Doctor reads a book while sitting there, or it was just the Doctor sitting there, and somebody says he should read a book. Probably Tom Baker's like, I should be reading a book while doing that. And Douglas Adams added, calling it, History of the Universe by Ulan Galufid, which is a Douglas Adams name used frequently throughout the Hitchhiker series.
Mm-hmm.
And just who is this god person, anyways?
Exactly.
And then he does have the scene where he's telling Davros what happened while he was away, including Beetlejuice coming in a close second in some sort of competition. Although that is apparently a real star, but I'm not sure if the star was named before the 70s or not.
It's been named Beetlejuice for quite a while.
Okay, so
Quite a
Douglas
long
Adams
while.
got its name from the real star, not the other way around.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the Godzillasaurus.
It is in the Orion. It is one of the stars in Orion's belt, I think.
Yeah.
It is also known by the name Alpha Orionis. It is the brightest star in the Orion belt.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been named Betelgeuse for a long time. Apparently,
So I can look up in the sky and find
Even before records.
well, not before records, but like somewhere in the 1700s.
Yeah.
Well before Douglas Adams was born.
Yes.
Well before a lot of things, Bill.
So yeah, Beetlejuice has always been Beetlejuice. It will be Beetlejuice after we're done. And when
Oh, it looks
finally...
like it's not in the belt, but it is in Orion. It looks like it's one of the shoulders.
Oh, okay. Okay, Arrow. I was looking at a circle. Yeah, it's one of the shoulders. It is the brightest star, though, in the Orion constellation. But, it was Beetlejuice then. It's Beetlejuice now. When the human race goes screaming into space and finally get there, it'll still be Beetlejuice.
Unless the locals have something to say about that.
Hopefully there won't be people with 2 heads and 3 arms.
Then again, they could go, hey, Beetlejuice don't sound too bad. That's
We're just letting you guys name it.
Loopy.
You can keep your name if you want to.
Show up, hi. I am Ambassador Zaphod Beeblebrox, and we've probably stalled this conversation with too much hitchhikers at this point.
Yep, time to move on. Aaron.
Okay.
So it's Aaron's turn.
Aaron.
Me. Well, Tim stole mine. Good thing I have like 5 others that, I really liked this cereal. I really did. I think I hear Randy hit the desk somewhere.
No, I was just going to say I'm more fond of Frosted Flakes, but...
No.
That was the joke I was thinking of, actually.
Alright, I guess my favorite overall thing was Tyson. Even though he was kind of a drag most of the time, he was so convinced that he was going to die on Scarrow, and then he didn't. He's pretty much their Marvin.
Pretty much.
Now that
you mention it.
Now that I think, I didn't realize that Douglas Adams had written this, and now that I know that,
now
it makes
perfect
kind of
sense,
perfect
doesn't
sense.
it?
Yep, exactly.
Don't talk to me.
It was. I mean, it's still on paper. It's still on paper, written by Terry Nation. But Douglas Adams was the script editor at the time,
so
and
he probably
apparently did a
dialogue.
massive overhaul on it behind the scenes.
From what I'm seeing on TARDIS Data Core, apparently he had the impression that the script editor did more script editing than they were actually used to on Doctor Who. So he did a lot more rewriting than was actually expected of him.
He probably left the Daleks alone because obviously Terry knows how to write Daleks, but some of the other Daleks probably need punching up.
Although
whereas
that just
dialogue,
makes,
I'd rather
that
Adam
just makes
Sandler.
me think of Tyson, by the way, as acted by Alan Rickman. Hello, I'm the doctor. I hope you know I'm feeling very depressed.
Hope you know I'm feeling very depressed.
And you can actually hear Tom Baker go, "Oh God."
I think I'm going to
No,
die on this planet. I don't want to die on this planet. It's
I
a
don't know.
miserable planet
I feel
full
like
of rocks.
if Tom Baker met Marvin, he'd be like, I know it'll cheer you right up. Have a jelly baby.
Here, have the whole bag. You need
I'm
them.
an android. I don't eat,
Oh, you can
especially
eat.
Well,
not
have you
bland
tried it?
confectionery sweets.
It hands him
Okay,
a
so
yo-yo instead.
what I really liked was the pacing of this story.
Mm-hmm.
End of episode 1 reveal was the Dalek reveal, and that's par for the course. I
Yep.
love the fact that they held off on the reveal that the Movelians were robots until the end of episode
Yeah.
3, beginning of episode.
Yes.
Although if you were paying attention, you can get little hints of it. Just
Oh
little.
yeah, they hint at it, but they don't come out and say it until then.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know something's up the way they're like, we don't allow aliens to view our dead. You know something's up with these guys, and the fact that the actors did a wonderful job of playing the Mavelians, because nowhere in there do they convey anything other than the blandest of emotions.
Right.
The emotions that can be emulated.
Except for that one time when the Movellan looks like they're trying really hard not to fall off the rock, and they're just like slowly going down. That looked a little organic.
That
to me.
was a directing faux pas that probably was left in because of time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
But the rest of it was pretty good.
Yeah, the rest of it, the way that they interacted with everybody else was just absolutely perfect for it. I just liked the pacing. There was no point that you were overly bored.
Mm-hmm.
I totally felt that the crumbling city was a callback to Death to the Daleks.
Kinda, almost.
You even see like the little, what would have appeared to be some kind of a flashing light, the stem of one.
Mm-hmm.
So, what didn't you like? Overall, Matt.
As I was bringing it up a little bit ago, those Movellan suits. Now, don't get me wrong, for 1970s suits, they're a little cheesy, but they were alright. But they have not aged well.
To be honest, they don't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I cannot take these people seriously as an intergalactic threat.
I can't see them as logical beings of any sort.
Especially when they have to have extra tunics to hide their batches and their butt cracks in those silly pants.
It's disco night on Skaro. Donna Summer's gonna be there.
The Movellans are the disco ball.
Actually, bring up a picture of Donna Summer. I think she did have like that
and those silver dreadlocks even made it even more silly and over the top.
That's the thing. If I ever did a parody of this episode, you realize all the Movellans would have to talk with Rasta accents.
Yes.
Yes.
That.
It would only amplify the cheese.
Well, did you notice?
No, Doctor, we are not robots. We're Rastabots.
The Rastabots.
Did you notice?
The problem is that just makes me feel like it's a Futurama episode.
You were saying, Aaron?
Ooh, it looks like you were having a meal.
The beads in the hair were actually different colored compared.
Towards the bottom, yeah.
According to like, I think it was who was in charge. Like the person in charge or the robot in charge got like dark black beads or whatever, and everyone else got silver beads.
More or
and
less.
Occasionally you had a pink-haired one too, pinkish.
Well, you realize that was itself analogous to the Daleks, who usually operate from a black Dalek Supreme and your basic silver.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, they were following the Terran Nation idea. But yeah, just these things can bring the Daleks to a halt.
Much. My Manwich!
My Manwich!
I think I had a Barbie doll that dressed like that.
Okay, Bill.
I wish I did.
I'm going to
Your least favorite thing.
I'm going to say for mine, it's Davros, and a lot of that is the costuming / props.
Yeah.
Because you've got this mostly immobile man covered in cobwebs, and they're trying to sell it to you to take it seriously. And I'm bursting out laughing every time I look at the screen. And then even the scene where like the doctor is so easily like manhandling him, and the Davros is like pushing his arm down as hard as he can, and the doctor's like he's playing with a little child, and it's like, and this is the most dangerous man in the universe.
It's like something from the Addams Family.
In fact, it feels to me like they took the cast of the original Mask, slapped it on some new guy, and didn't get rid of the jawline so they could actually make the mouth work like they did with the original.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the original Mask. They
I
did.
thought the original was only a half mask.
Nope, that was Michael Wisher's mask.
So it literally is them stapling the mask onto somebody else, and that's
Correct.
why it fails so hard.
Yes, it does, which is why when Terry Malloy takes over next time, he had a brand new mask.
We have to wonder if the cobwebs were from the prop bin or if they were added.
The thing is, the cobwebs don't make a lot of sense.
How did spiders get down there?
Spiders
get everywhere. The fact that Skaro is an irradiated, sterile environment.
That is true, yeah.
Well, someone gave the spiders anti-radiation medication.
No, they're the spiders from Spider-Man. Davros is actually the new Spider-Man.
That's why he's still alive. It's not because of his backup
systems
at all.
He has web shooters, but he's paralyzed.
Can I say one last thing? I really didn't like his voice.
Oh yeah, the voice didn't quite work either.
Human.
It was obvious that was why that I think they were expecting Michael Wisher to come back, but for whatever reason he did not.
Like, you can barely hear the voice modulation. It's not harsh enough. It's not cunning sounding.
It's not Dalek enough either.
It's the voice of a weak old man.
Yeah.
Tim mentions his... Sorry.
You go.
Tim mentions his least favorite thing is the lack of K9.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't remember why John Leeson was not working with Doctor Who. I know they did recast him for this season. Although
I believe he was contractually obligated elsewhere.
Most likely.
I do know that the one scene that K9 appears in, he is voiced by Roy Skelton in the serial, which is pretty much just him croaking energized.
Dalek K9.
Now, just one response to disliking the lack of K9, which I definitely understand why, but apparently Terry Nation wrote him out, or in this case, I guess Douglas Adams wrote him out because that was his scene, but Terry Nation did not include him because the Daleks either would have had to destroy him or would have had to look really weak by failing to do so.
There was also another issue, and it was a production issue.
The location shots. Yeah, it was difficult to work with the robot.
K9 was very difficult to work on.
Remote control.
On external terrain.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He's very hard to work in a gravel quarry, and they generally preferred to use K9 solely in studio scenes because you got the nice flat floors, and he didn't always work right then either.
Not to mention his controls would frequently mess with other things too.
If because the BBC can get a hold of a real hoverboard, they can attach K9 to one.
But anyway, technically K9 flies already if you'd seen the spin-off series. Anyway, but since a good chunk of this serial was actually on location in whatever gravel quarry they were in, it just wasn't useful to have K9 in this episode. Even this one bit where K9 would have been useful in trying to free the Doctor at the end of the first episode, couldn't do it because how could K9 get there?
Yep. So that was that.
Aaron?
Aaron?
Okay.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing overall, let me see here. I have my little list here. I didn't like how easy it was to deactivate the Dalek or the mobile robots. You just unhook the thing at the side, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
you're not working anymore. And you look like a fairly expensive robot, so yep. Boop. You know, let's not make this an internal mechanism or anything that can't be.
Well, to be
unhooked.
fair, Daleks don't have fingers.
Yeah.
So
Still, those are
They
easily
can use their
removable, even
little
with a
suction
plunger.
cup to
now,
hook it up.
I'm like, if it was a suction cup button, then it would be a design flaw.
Okay. Going back a second, Leeson actually was frustrated with the role of K9 and the limitations of him and quit.
Oh.
And would not return until John Nathan Turner managed to hold a bone in front of him saying, okay, we'll kill off the character later this season.
You had to use the bone analogy for a canine.
That was
Of course.
deliberate, Bill.
Anywho,
Okay.
Well, considering
So-
John Leeson's playing canine to this day, I guess he got used to the role.
Yeah, he did. He got fond of it in retrospect.
Kids love him. Anyway,
And the fact
Randy?
that he's been doing K9 in, Big Finish and everything,
Mhm.
they've managed to do more with the character. Okay. So were you done with your least favorite, Aaron?
Yep.
Okay, my least favorite was the set designs. And set designs and location.
Yeah.
And the fact is that when you're doing an episode where you return back to a place that you were in a previous serial, you would think as a
Like
set
some
designer,
landmarks?
you would watch that previous serial and try to make certain sets look like that.
Yeah.
So the portion where Davros is lying dead should look like the room that he was shot in at the end of Genesis. Instead, it looks like he's sitting in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
The
Alex, put
planet
him in the
Skaro was a foggy wasteland in this, and it's radioactive to this day, so there should have been fog.
Should have been fog, and there should have been at least a little more vegetation and other remnants from the long battle history of Skaro, and none of it.
Instead, it literally does look like they're in a gravel quarry in Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the buildings look remarkably English instead of alien like they did in Genesis.
Well, it's not like Scaro's ever appeared on a serial in order to sample the architecture. Oh wait.
That's
That last
exactly
one.
what. That's what I mean. Is you're supposed to do a location and set design for a Doctor Who serial taking place on Skaro. The first thing I would do is I'd look how many episodes have we done on Skaro before? Okay, we've got 1, 2. Okay, we've got 2. Let's look at those and see what I can come
3,
up
but
with.
one of them didn't go outdoors.
What was the third?
Evil.
Oh, yes, we were on Skaro and Evil.
Mhm.
You're right. My bad. So it's kind of depressing to me to go out there and it looks like a bright sunny day in the English countryside, and it really shouldn't. Not for Skaro. So that was a fail on my part. Or on their part to me. Okay, so scene you really liked. Let's start with Matt.
Scene I really liked. Don't want to steal the obvious one of the obvious ones. I guess what really kind of worked, and worked as a cliffhanger and everything too, is the bit where the Doctor is trying to save Romana, and we get a cliffhanger off of that, and then we come back and have him getting zapped and passed out for a little while, and it was actually all a trap.
Okay.
That was quite an effective scene, and I'm sure that would have kept kids on the edge for that entire week.
I remember looking at that one like, that seems a bit of an overkill for an execution for someone you have no reason to execute. And then they came back and it was a trap, and I was like, okay, that actually makes a little sense now.
Of course, it's going to be overly thing if you're looking to attract them into a trap. Yes.
Yeah, of course it's
Right.
going to be. Obviously, you want to make sure that they do come out. So let's
I'm
go
like,
full blown.
if they actually were just looking to dispose of a witness, that would be severe overkill.
Yeah,
Oh.
see, the thing is that there's no trees on Scarrow to hang her from by her arms.
By the way, we were talking about Michael Wisher before.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he was not able to be Davros in this is he was on tour in Australia at the time.
That makes sense.
And yes, David Gooderson replaced him, but the Davros mask was 5 years old and in poor condition, and it's still the same mask.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and their audio wasn't preset for him, so it sounded really off.
yep. So yeah, they were basically. He was a emergency replacement, really.
More or less.
And then apparently Wisher decided to remain in Australia or something, but they had a little more heads up for it for the next time they did this.
So they found a decent replacement, yes.
And that's when they got Terry Malloy, who has been known to play Davros in audios to this day.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty solid Davros,
although for whatever reason, Russell T did not bring him back.
No. Then again, Terry Malloy is a bit campy as Davros.
From time to time.
But it was the 80s, so it was the camp era. You had the Camp Master, Camp Davros.
I don't think Russell's Davros was uncampy.
No, but he was going for more creepy horror than bluster, I think.
Yeah. Something a little more subdued.
We're doing best scene, right?
A little.
Yes.
Best scene, yes.
Since I chose this as my my top fourth Doctor scene of all time, it's only fitting that the opening sequence is chosen as my favorite scene of the serial that it appears in. The back and forth, particularly Tom Baker, is just amazing there. Let's see what we're looking at. Oh, look, rocks. Just sticks out in my head to this day as one of the most hilarious Tom Baker moments. And that scene is just a keeper.
10 out of 10 with Tom again.
Tim mentions that his favorite scene is the one in which the Doctor is trapped under the column and is reading The Origin of the Universe.
Yeah.
Damn it, Tim. I knew someone would take it.
Wait, what was your favorite scene, Bill?
Mine was the opening of episode 1, like the first thing.
The whole Lamont bit and then the rocks.
Yep.
It's what's inside that counts. No, take it away. It's too tall.
All right. So, Aaron, you're up.
Next.
I'm going to go with the rock, paper, scissors. Everlasting peace. Exactly. It's just a wonderful demonstration because
I had three selected and you chose them all.
They're like this. I don't know if this serial played a lot on PBS or if we just happened to have it on VHS, but there's scenes in the serial that I remember to this day, and it's been years. It's been 20 plus years since I've seen this thing.
It's been maybe almost 5 to 10 for me, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm going to have to go with the Doctor basically trying to blackmail the Daleks with the explosive device.
Ah, yes. The amazing thing about that scene was he wasn't bluffing. He followed through, and that's normally the Doctor is bluffing in a scene like that.
Yes.
Tom Baker's not the Doctor to bluff.
Well, yeah, he would. But
it's Daleks.
This
is Daleks and it's
Daleks,
Davros.
It's no bluffing.
It's Daleks and it's Davros. They're like, things I will kill, things I didn't kill before and I regret. I think he mentioned that earlier in the
pretty
serial.
much Daleks, Davros, Cybermen.
Davros and the Daleks, I think, go hand in hand by this point.
Yeah. So Daleks and Cybermen.
Well, at this point, no, because he
Daleks,
thought
Cybermen.
Davros was dead until halfway through the serial.
Yes.
Still, Daleks and Cybermen, and if there's anything in the universe he will willingly pull out a sword or a gun and try and fight and defend himself from, it'll be those in a heartbeat.
And probably by this point, he's getting a minor in Sontaran.
Minor and Zontarn, yeah. The Zontarns are becoming pests, too.
Yeah, they've only been in 2 serials by this point, but, you know, I think they only ever had a total of 4, so, in Classic.
In Classic, and probably at least another 3 or 4 now in Modern, so they're around. They're round off enough.
They had 1 in Modern, unless you're counting specifically Strax.
There was 1 in Modern, and there was 1 in Sarah Jane. And I don't count Strax.
Don't fully count
he's
Strax
not a
either.
bad guy.
But they've made some cameos and stuff, though, so they're still out
they did
there.
cameo in Time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah, for a second I thought you were going to say the scene that the Doctor tries to calm Davros by offering him a jelly baby.
I thought about that, but it was too short.
Yeah.
Alright, so, scene you didn't like.
Oh, scene I didn't like. I think the first time we deactivated the Movellans, it looked kind of silly. It didn't help that they had the cheesy slow down sound effect either.
Yeah.
You're talking about the scene where they're playing keep away with the weapon until the Movellan just keels over and dies, right?
Well, the thing off its belt, yeah.
Yeah, that was my choice as well.
That was a mood killer right there.
I was just like, what?
They're already ridiculous, and now you just made them absolutely silly with Nintendo sound effects. Thanks, 70s.
You should have used Energizer.
You can't make Nintendo sound effects in the 70s. There was no Nintendo.
Well, they managed to get close.
Atari?
Nintendo wouldn't be around for another 7 years.
Well, I think at this point
Nintendo
they were
was
making
always
trading
around at
cards.
this point, but they were doing mostly card games and stuff.
Yeah, I think they were mostly making trading cards. I mean, not trading cards. Sorry, regular cards. Whatever the playing cards.
Oh, they were making card games, trading cards, and I think they were actually doing arcades at the time.
Okay, so
Yeah. Bill.
Yeah, you said Bill took or you took Bill's.
Yeah, he took the one. So my second. I would probably do the scene with, as I mentioned, Davros and the cobwebs and trying to take him seriously, and it's all bad. That scene is just terrible. That'll be my second choice.
All right.
And Tim says, "What were you gonna say?"
No, I was going to say Tim.
Oh, okay. Tim says that guy Tisan, however you say his name. Anyone know? He could have said something and not just ominently walked up to Romana, causing her to fall into a pit.
Mm-hmm. Or Marvin.
All right. Aaron?
Playing Keep Away.
We already did that.
Keep Away. Oh, you already did that one?
We just talked about it. The whole sound effect and everything.
That was Matt's choice and my first choice.
Oh. Well, I thought you were just talking in general. Dalek suicide bombers then. Those were just plain silly.
The scene where they were lined up with the explosives while he gives them an inspirational speech.
Yep. Now remember, the 75 virgins. Oh wait, never mind.
We died in the name of Allah. Where are our 100 virgins?
There are bits of my father over there,
Well,
and up there.
If we're going with the Nazi analogy, they could have been kamikaze pilots. But they were
Japan.
very ineffective ones.
Well, that was actually Japan.
Sort of...
The Nazis had Red Barons and stuff.
For one thing, why would
I'm saying they fought on the same side in the same war. They were allies of each other, so the analogy can carry that far.
It didn't makes sense. I mean, why would a Dalek destroy itself? Isn't it seen as a perfect being? So destroying itself is like abhorrent.
Well,
At this
it's
point,
doing it to destroy another massively imperfect being that they
Daleks
need to
have
get
been
rid of.
known to self-destruct to take their enemy with them when they know they're already going. These Daleks were unusually subservient to Davros anyway. They specifically stated that they would obey Davros. I think they were so desperate to win their war that they were willing to overlook things they would normally never do.
Possibly, yes. So, kaboom.
Yep. That's basically it. This because they knew they had to destroy the Novellans, or they would be right back to where they were in here. And God knows how long the Daleks and Novellans had basically been sitting there, each waiting for the other to make their move.
I think they did say thousands of years, or maybe not.
Yeah.
At least hundreds.
Although, that's been kind of a reoccurring theme during the Tom Baker era, because the Sontarans and the Rootans were in much the same situation.
Right. Except theirs was a back and forth rather than a deadlock.
Yeah, but the whole concept of the 1,000-year stalemate.
Right.
All right, so my least favorite scene is actually a play off of Matt's scene, but it's the end part where they're just taking down the Movellans left and right. And they're taking them down so fast that the cheesy sound effect can't keep up.
It's
like do 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 do. It's like wow. Starting to have flashbacks to Perfect Hair Forever. It was just like, and you had them falling, and it's like they're a chorus line. I think at one point I broke into Doctor versus Robot. Matt gets that. I'm not sure anyone else does.
Monkey versus robot.
Doctor versus Robot. Doctor hates the robot, see, robot hates all Gallifrey. They fight through eternity, Doctor versus Robot. It just seemed overly cheesy to me.
Yep.
Anyway, that is what we thought for our fours, so we will move on to final thoughts. Matt.
Overall, I think the ideas of the story are really good, and a lot of the dialogue punching up, which was obviously done by someone a little more competent than Terry Nation, that helped with the story. However, I think that the low budget and the time constraints for sets and costumes is what kind of dampens the experience for this one. If they would have had the right budget that they really deserved and really needed for this could have been a lot better. And that's my basic thoughts on it.
Well, thoughts. I would say that this episode is not as bad as I was thinking just leading up to it, remembering it as essentially the bastard child of Genesis, but not generally. I mean, we touched on the bad things about it, but there was a lot more good to it than I had initially remembered. Still definitely could have been a lot better, but it was not a failure of an episode. Tim mentions as his final thoughts that the storyline had some neat ideas and seemed like a good collection of individual scenes and ideas, and he really enjoyed Douglas Adams' influence.
Okay. Alright, we're on to me?
Yes, we are.
Alright, I really enjoyed this one. There are still moments that I remember to this day. It's been ages since I've seen this. Romana and the Tube, you got the Movellans, you've got Davros. I even remember some of the cheesy, like, it looked like an extra stage that they were leading into, not a Dalek, a Dalek cave system or whatever with all the extra stage lights sitting around, even though, they're supposed to be, like, excavating and whatnot, but... yeah, I really enjoyed this, and wound up being a very great lead-in from Genesis.
All
That's
right.
it.
Well, this probably, if it would have been kept by anyone else, would have been another Terry Nation bland fest. But it had the benefit of being written by the late great Douglas Adams, or being rewritten, I should say, by the late great Douglas Adams, who is, of course, a writing god, who managed to spiff up this work quite handily. And it was acted very well by all the people acting in it. However, the set designers and everybody should have done a little more research on it. And if they had, this probably would have been just as good as Genesis. But budget and set and prop constraints did kind of fall apart on this episode, which distracts from it. In short, making it good, not great, but not as bad as some of the other stuff we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to move on to ratings. Matt.
Oh, what did I give the last one? A 4?
The
or did
last
I
one
give
you
it
gave
a
a 4.5.
4.5. So, yeah, I definitely don't feel any guilt on this. I'll give this just a solid 4. It's not enough to give 4.5. It's not enough, definitely, to give 5. If they would have had the time and budget to actually finish fleshing everything out properly and actually doing the fixes that we have been mentioning, would have easily been a 5. But as it is, this is only a 4. The plot will make up for any other shortcomings, more or less.
I'm going to agree with the 4. I considered giving it a 3.5, but some of the things in there bump it up to be worthy of a 4, so I'm giving it a 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
Tim also gives a 4.0, so that's 3 4s so far.
All right. Aaron?
I actually give this a pretty high rating, 4.5 for me. So.
It would normally be a 4, but the rose-tinted glasses give it an extra 5.
Rose-tinted glasses, huh? All right.
No.
So we've got 3 4s, a 4.5.
Peer pressure, Ren. Peer pressure.
Hang on. I'm sorry. I just remembered something I needed to do. Was it the last 2 episodes? Was it the last 2 episodes that Tim was actually giving his vote in absentia?
I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3. I don't think he was present. I don't think he was present for Planet. I think he gave that to us ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd forgotten to mark those as being abstentia votes, so I need to do that really quick. 4.5 for that, and okay, what do I want to give it? What did I get? I gave Genesis a 5.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Death a 4.5. Oh man, it is right on the border between 4.5 and 4. I'm going to give it a 4.5, but I'm going to say for the record that it's probably about a 4.25. So it's just barely rounding up.
Yeah.
So with our limitations of the half points, that puts it at a 4.2 average.
4.2 average, which will copy over to the master sheet in a moment. That's actually not bad, and a lot better than I thought it was going to get, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
thought it would be closer to a 3.
Yeah. This episode gets a lot of hate.
I think that's unnecessary. There's some cheesy elements because 70s, well, obviously, and it comes with the territory.
That's the premise is kind of whacked out. Like, from the premise alone, you would think it would get a lower rating.
Yeah, there is, but for some reason it works.
Yeah, it kind of works in its own sort of pseudo-sequel way.
Okay.
doesn't want to try to be Genesis of the Daleks, and it's better off not trying to either. It's just the next step in the evolution.
I said 111. No, I actually wanted 112. Sorry. Give me another second here. Hey, I still have to enter all this stuff in by hand. So that's 4.2, 4.3 from the core, which, when sorted, I am sorting now. C, D, Z to A will rank us, and this is the overall rankings, not the by core rankings. Will put us at number... Wow. 25 out of... Basically, I think it's 109 now.
And I just
Maybe
realized
110.
I read us off as a 112th episode at the beginning of the podcast. This is actually the 111th.
Oh well.
That's out of 108. Out of 108 entries, this is number 25. So that's not
pretty
bad.
high
It's
up.
between.
Yeah,
It
that's
is.
pretty good.
It is tied with Frontier in Space.
Woo!
Rating just below The Last Christmas and just above Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways.
That's some pretty good company.
Which rates as a 4.2, 4.2 from the core. So it's only beating Bad Wolf by a 0.1 core points. Also in that same 4.2 tier is Destiny the Dr. Shockwave, The War Games, Legopolis, and The Mind Robber.
All of them very good episodes, so it's up
Yeah.
there, folks. For all the naysayers,
And the
go
only
piss off.
reason it's rating this high has to be Douglas Adams' writing.
Oh yeah,
Most
definitely.
of it, yes.
I mean, a lot of what puts it up there is the dialogue, which is something we know that Terry Nation is very bad at, and Adams is a
Douglas
comedy
Adams
writer.
is very, very good at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you took away Terry Nation, I would have. I mean, if you took away Douglas Adams, I probably would have given this episode a 3.5.
Or
probably
3
or
flat.
lower. Yeah,
But and
probably
the end
also
result
flat.
with this being a collaboration between someone who's good at serialized action and someone who's good at dialogue and comedy, it worked well together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it worked very well together.
You hear this, writers? This is the key.
Find someone who's really good at your action bits and have him write that, and then have someone who's really good at your dialogue and have him write that. And then
You
you
hear
have
this,
a director
George
who knows how
Lucas?
to make these actors work, and we got it.
That
Hear this,
doesn't
George
mean
Lucas?
George!
This is why Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi worked. Is because you had someone write your dialogue that was good at it.
And that
that's why
doesn't
the
mean
prequels
have
sucked.
Stephen Moffat write all of your dialogue, even if he's successful at it a lot of the time. Because sometimes that's just too much of the same goddamn writer.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't have him create your characters either.
Yeah. Oh, definitely don't let him have the control of the characters more. Anywho.
So that's gonna about do it for Destiny.
And we just barely managed it in time.
Yep.
So you want to go? Go ahead,
Yep.
Bill. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. If you enjoy listening to our podcast, please consider subscribing to us at Unearthly Podcast on YouTube, _unearthly podcast on Mixcloud, or Unearthly Podcast on Twitch.tv. You can also like us at Facebook.com/UnearthlyPodcast or follow us at Twitter.com/UnearthlyPod. Or you can always support us over at Patreon.com/UnearthlyPodcast. Next week, we once again return to the Eric Sayward era as we take a look at Resurrection of the Daleks. Join us there.
Peter Davidson serial. We're moving ahead of Doctor.
The sad mopey doctor. See you next time.
Alright, see y'all.
Okie doke.
You said